Good afternoon, everybody. Bobby Cleveland here, Oklahoma Corrections Professional. Save OCP is our website on Facebook, and we're still moving strong. And got my friend Representative Humphrey with us today, which is with us every day. And we want to talk about this email that we received from the feds. It talks about DOC, how many employees they have, how many inmates they have, and ranks Oklahoma. It ranks
You got to turn that off.
It ranks Oklahoma as number one in the nation with the worst ratio of inmate CO, which we knew that was true too, but we just didn't know everybody in the world knew it. And that's concerning. But what's even more concerning, this is supposed to be from the federal government. The numbers they have don't match up. So it's either they made a mistake in some of these numbers, or DOC was not telling the truth when they filled out their information to send to the government. So what's your thought there, JJ?
Well, Bob, I'm trying to find that report so I can talk to it exactly. I think my assistant took that report down off of me, but I remember the numbers pretty well, Bob. And so I'm still looking for it, but I'll find it here in just a bit where that report is. So that report, Bob, was from the Federal Bureau. And so in 2002, and I just read the report, so we're going to go off my memory. In 2022, the Fair Labor Standards Act, the people who do that, but it's called the Labor Commission, got some numbers that had to get them from DOC. And then you had the Bureau of Justice in 2023 got numbers. And so that's what these numbers, and actually there's a law firm that got all these numbers from them and put this together. And so that's where the report came out, was from this. Oklahoma was top in the nation in the fewest number of correctional officers to the number of inmates. Now, here's the problem, Bob, is that they said it was one officer to 5.87, I think, 5.87. Going off my memory, Bob, I'll be pretty close, 5.87. Now, you might as well round that up and say 1 to 6. So here's the deal, Bob. When's the last time you think that Oklahoma actually saw an inmate ratio 1 to 6? If we were at 1 to 6, I'd be a happy camper. I don't care if we are the worst in the nation. 1 to 6 would be awesome. But again, here's the deal. We ain't seen 1 to 6. So here's what's funny, and Bob, you may remember this. The DOC, I can't never remember what her title is. Of course, it's Thompson, Kay Thompson. So she's the communication director, the communication officer, whatever you want to call her title. I might even call it discommunication because, I'm not sure that it's all correct. But she went on this radio station out of Tulsa, and she said, and we had that on tape and played it for a hearing, where she said that they had a 15-to-1 ratio, one officer to 15 inmates. And she also said on there that they manipulate those numbers so that they can get funding from legislators, which is code for we don't tell the truth to get money. So we lie for money. And so again, 1 to 15 is what they reported during this year. If I'm not mistaken, that was earlier this year. So they say 1 to 15, but here's the federal system. This group compiled the numbers from 2 different federal systems, and we get 1 to 5. Now, Bob, why I find that extremely alarming is because I don't think either one of those numbers are correct. So I went and tried to subpoena, and Bob, we tried to subpoena these records to say 4 prisons, which were going to be Lawton, Allen Gamble, Great Plains, and Dick Connors. We asked to subpoena those 4 prisons. We asked to subpoena, I think it was 3 months or 4 months worth of their master rosters, which, Bob, everybody working in the penitentiary knows that you have to go in and every day they've got a roster of how many people are going to work that day and what's those positions. Bob, you got to turn that phone on, son, man. You ain't got your girlfriend calling or anything.
Yeah, that's what it was.
There you go. Well, you might ought to take that one. But here's the deal, Bob. When I asked for those subpoenas, now can you think of anything? There's subpoena Ryan Walters right now for fishing expedition, but we have stuff on real rapes, murders, extortions, all these kind of things, and we're wanting to know how many people are actually working at these prisons on these numbers. And guess what? We can't get a subpoena for simple records like that. And so I've managed to lay my hands on a couple. Bob, I'm going to say at OSP, based on the ones that I saw the other day, the ones I may have some access to, then I'm going to say that looked like about 1 to 60. I think they got 800. Of course, again, I don't have the official tally like they do, but I'll bet you I'm pretty close. So 1 to 60 on that, I think at that high security, they got about 820 some odd inmates. I think from the rosters I see, it looks like that they've got roughly 20 something officers working there per day. So I got multiple days, and it looks like an average of somewhere between 24 and 28. I can't remember, something like that. So it'd be 60-ish range. But here's the problem, Bob. In talking on that and trying to get, hey, what's actually going on, there was one day on those that I was looking at that I know they had 4 transports. So if you got 4 transports or 4 officers transporting, let's say 4 officers transporting, that drops your number quite, you know what I'm saying? That drops it a whole lot. And that's what you're looking at. I've got some from another prison to where that prison has approximately 1,700 inmates, and it looks like about 12 working per day. But again, you've got some fixed posts that can't come out. You've got supervisors. You've got people on transport. So again, Bob, you may be dropping down to an actual number of 8 or 9 to actually handle 1,700 inmates. It's just again, you're looking at 140 to anywhere to 160 people per officer. And for them to come out with numbers 1 to 5 is a slap in the face to every officer, in my opinion. And again, Bob, you tell me what you think. But if you falsify documents, so I don't know whether these are official documents had to be turned in to the Federal Bureau of Justice and to the Fair Labor Standards, but I'm going to be working on finding out, because if somebody falsified those documents, I think they ought to be charged. What do you think?
Oh, yeah. There needs to be an investigation under how they got that information, because that's pretty serious. And to say that, because I know there's some cases there's 220 inmates that to one officer at one of the prisons anyway. So we're not even close to what number they give. Now, I don't never remember us having that many officers, period, that they claim that we have.
No, Bob.
Are you trying to get that camera to make you look better or something? What are you trying to do?
Well, I felt like I was out of proportion, Bob. I thought I was going underneath. I was going to get it a little where I'm back in the screen. It may just because I'm riding low in my chair. I could be just riding low in my chair.
Well, you do slump. You do slumper.
I do have poor posture, Bob. That is true. But here's the deal, Bob. You want to know why that we have all the problems in the penitentiary that we're having in the penitentiary right now? And guess what? It is the number of officers. We have a shortage in officers. Everybody knows that. Everybody understands that. When you have places that don't have your towers, man, for days, months, 6 months or so, you don't have
nobody at the front desk.
You don't have people at front desk. You don't have nobody checking in. Guess what, Bob? I got to looking into a little issue on visitation at OSP the other day. So I'm getting called on a deal. I'm just looking into a deal. So I call and say, hey, could you tell me who's the 2 officers that handled your visitation at OSP for the last 4 weeks? Now, Bob, that seems like a pretty easy request. I don't see that. And here's what's funny, Bob. That's a public thing. The public is coming in there for visitation. So to say, well, it's a security issue. How is it a security issue? They're out here to the public. The public is coming in, so it ain't like it's some big secret of who it is. So again, I ask, guess what, Bob? I've never got an answer on that because it's a security issue. So I got to go find out, like I do on everything, Department of Corruption or whatever they are. I got to watch what I say. I get so used to calling Department of Corruption, it slips out. But anyways, they quit answering. I don't get one thing from them. Everything I request, it's like, we can't tell you that, or we can't do that. Now, the lady that's over it, I like her, and she does help on some of the inmate stuff that we had to call in. Her and LaToya work together. But as far as getting any information from them, totally worthless. That you might as well. The only reason I write them, Bob, is just to document, because there's going to be one day when I'm going to be able to walk in and go, I asked you for the 2 people who worked the visitation, and look at what answer you gave me. We can't release that security issues. Now, Bob, I'm over, so I'm an elected official on the corrections board. I can walk into their executive meeting. They can raise hell if they want, if I want, and I may just do it just to show them that I can, because guess what? I can walk into their executive meeting. I'll bring the paperwork with you and show you, hey, boom, I can be in here. Now, what thing can they discuss that I'm not privy to? That's a lie. And so they're saying, so Bob, I had to go and find another way to find out who it is. Now, right now, it looks like, Bob, check this out. It looks like that their maintenance person and the person that's over their canteen are the ones running visitation. Now, again, I don't think, from what I can find out, so here's what's funny. I start in this direction, but now I'm way more interested in this. Why do you have maintenance and canteen running your visitation, if that's what's true? Because I can't get an official answer. But now it becomes kind of pretty clear, Bob, on why they don't want to answer me. It looks like they're trying to cover up, hey, we don't have enough help to actually have officers do visitation. So we're sending people out there who aren't trained, who are not officers, to do these visitations. It's what it looks like. And again, it looks that way because it probably is, and because I can't get a straight answer from the Department of Corrections.
Well, it looks like actually, since Harp just came in there, they do not give you the information or the right information. And it looks like that he has done what they said he could do. He's going to make us number 1. Well, he made Oklahoma number 1 in the ratio. Number one in lowest officer to inmate ratio in the nation. He scored high. Hey, in mortality rate, and I can't believe this. I cannot. If Louisiana's got us beat on mortality, I got another one, Bob, on mortality rates, and said that we're number 2. So we're number 2 in that. We didn't quite score high enough to make it number 1. Bob, here's what's funny. They changed the terms. So here's what's happening. They're changing, or they'd be number 1 in a lot of other things. So, Bob, we talked about this. In fact, I think you're the one who originally said this. If they're getting too many UAs on K2, what do, Bob? They quit checking for
Yeah. So, boy, we've dropped the number of positive UAs. How did we drop them? We just quit testing. That's how they do it. So those numbers they play games with all over. So, Bob, the other day I get told that we had an inmate walk. Now, I know that area a little bit, and I was told the inmate was almost 8 miles away from the prison. If the inmate was picked up where I was told the inmate is approximately 8 miles away from the prison.
Right.
You know what they called it?
A walk away.
A walk away, Bob. Where did that term come up? Who come up with the term walk away? You used to have a term called out of bounds. So out of bounds was like, if where I worked, if you were across the street, you were out of bounds. You're off the prison property. You ain't supposed to be across the street. So if you're across the street, we might holler, "Hey, get your butt back over here across the street," or "Go over and get you." We didn't file escape because you was within, I mean, you were right there. You didn't escape. You were out of bounds. Okay, I'll go out of bounds. I'll go a walk away. If a walk away is, where you can see them from the prison, walk away. But how far do you have to walk away? Do you got to be on walkabout? We may have another term. Get that from Crocodile Dundee. He went on walkabout. So they're going to have a walk away and a walkabout, probably. So, Bob, that's why they're playing games. Bob, I'll give you another example. They had 30 inmates injured, my understanding. 2 died. It ain't clear on what happened to the other 2 that was in bad shape. You never hear anything from old sweet DOC. But Bob, I called it a mini riot, precursor to a riot, mini riot. They come out scorched earth. I'm an idiot. I have no institutional knowledge, and that is what they call it, a group disruption. So now instead of escapes, we have walkaways. Now instead of riots, we have group disruptions. So Bob, that's why these numbers are a joke, because they just make up names. They're better than the Biden. Hey, this is the Biden of incarcerations. They just make up the names they want to recall it, rebrand it, and call it something else and don't count it. You know what I'm saying? So it's just unbelievable that we can be number 1 in the top inmate to officer ratio at 5.7 when we know that's a lie from the pit of hell. And the things that I've got is got anywhere from 1 to 60 to 1 to 170, 1 to 140, something like that.
Well, and all this was created by Director Hart when he came in. He made the changes. So what he's done, he's brought us down in Oklahoma where the drugs coming into the prison, we were probably number 1 right there of how much drugs is coming into the prisons. We had drugs coming into the prison by I don't know that she was bringing it in, but she was living with the person that was not even supposed to be on the property of DOC.
Bob, I just got called. In fact, right before we got on this program, there's a guy that has a team. They go all over the United States. They're recognized nationally. They're recognized federal. They're all federally certified. And what they do is audit prisons. They go in and audit the whole system or county jails. And so I talked to this guy quite a bit. And so I'm trying. That's one of the things I wouldn't mind them trying. And I've said that if we want to have an outside auditor come in and he brings his team in, they don't just go in and look at the facility. They go in and take a percentage of inmates. They sit down and talk to those inmates so that they can get a real picture of what's going on. They talk to officers. They do the whole 9 yards. Bob, you know why I was talking to him earlier?
Why?
Take a wild guess why he called me. You know what he wanted to know about?
The stabbings?
No, he did mention Lawton while we were on there and about how many problems he had. But I mean, now this guy lives in South Texas down on the Gulf. He called me to say, hey, is it true your deputy warden got caught with dope, taking dope into the facility? And I was like, oh, son, you ain't even heard the whole story about how this person was fired and end up at the deputy warden's house, OD'd, how they have to come in and try to give medical attention. And while in doing medical attention, find a bunch of dope. And, oh, by the way, got it on pretty good information that they told the administration multiple times this was going on and was pretty much told that if you want to keep your job, you shut up and get along with this warden, deputy warden they fired. So again, Bob, I mean, just unbelievable. Here's what's even more unbelievable, Bob, is that when you get caught, if you look at Kay Thompson's, the media person again, whether she's director, officer, whatever her title is, she comes out with an article or a statement saying, oh, we've introduced under Director Harp, we've introduced new technologies to prevent drugs from getting in the institution. I'm like, no, surely you don't. You just had your deputy warden caught with a house full of dope on your own property, your deputy warden, and you're going to come out and start bragging on Harp about putting new technology in and starting with OIG to get officers to stop drug. When anybody that wants to check you, you want to talk about number one. Let's talk about some number ones, Bob. Let's go down the list on some number ones. Number one in ODs. What do you want to bet, Bob? That under Director Harp, I will bet you under Director Harp, he's had more ODs in his 1.5, 2 years than they've had. I'd love to pull the numbers on the total number of ODs that happened from the beginning of time, but beginning of Department of Corrections till Harp took over. I would almost guarantee you, Bob, that the number there wouldn't be as high as the number that Harp's had under his. Number one in ODs that I can ever remember. Guess what, Bob? People are dying like flies. People are dying. I mean, hey, you got people dying all the time. I've never heard of such. Number one in deaths. I'd like to go back and start from the history again. Now, I know people died just natural deaths and all that, but I'd love to see comparable from the beginning till right when he took over, and then compare that little 1.5 year to the entire time. Again, I may be wrong, but I think he'd give a pretty good race on both of those. Nation per capita, Bob, I'd fall out of my chair if he ain't the awesome winner nationwide. When you look per capita, how many inmates we have. Guess what, Bob? Number one in pay. If you want to look at how many inmates he's got compared to other places, hell, he's almost as high paid as California, that has 7 or 8 times the inmate population. He's
number one. He's number one in that category for population.
Number one, Bob. What's some other things he's number one?
Well, the morale. The morale, I didn't think it could get any lower, but it has.
Yeah, he's managed to get that. Bob, you sent me a letter a while ago. Did you got that? I mean, were we going to try to read that, or?
Yeah. Well, that one you got there was I got another one today, but what we were going to talk about was the one who are sad. The name? Yeah,
we changed the name to sad. We don't want nobody.
And dadgummit, I don't know. I'm bad as you are. I can't get my I cannot get my function with me.
Yeah, Bob, I thought you sent that to me, and I can't find it again. I thought you just sent it to me earlier.
Well, as far as an officer inmate ratio, when I started my career till they let me go, I've always seen one officer per 160 to 100, from 1 to 200, and this was at Hinton, I guess is where it was at. And so there's just so much that went on, but they're talking about the ratio, what it was like when they first started before DOC took over. They had a good group of people there. They all worked together, and everything was together. They all did it together. And then DOC takes over. They have less people to watch the inmates, and they have more problems than they ever had before. This is from an officer who's been with both groups. So they talk about that it was open was a 1 to 240 inmate on the main yard, 2 officers to 360 inmates in some cases. But it goes on and on, talks about how bad things are and how bad the morale is, and that they couldn't get any worse. They got people quitting, all the time. They're moving out, they're leaving, and then they put a young officer that just got out of academy. They'll put him out there over 300 inmates and making it very difficult. But the big thing is one of the things we need to talk a little bit more about is these stabbings that we had there at Lawton.
Hey, Bob, I think I found that. It says, "Good afternoon. My name is Mr. Sad. I would like to share my story. Started working 4 years ago. My energy level was high, and I enjoyed the fact that I was working with the state. Working for a facility was enjoyable because I was part of a team that we had made a difference. Today, my coworkers are depressed. Some of us sleep deprived, anxiety, including myself. We work 12 hours and 2-hour windshield. For most of us, I see my coworkers sad and tired because of skeleton crews that we run daily. We have one man working Juliet by himself, then plus doing showers alone in the sex sides in such a dangerous situation to place 21 plus persons with 360 inmate management. I feel they do not give rat's ass what we're going through, that I've worked for years and left, and once a new captain who I've known for years and was a great employee. We had 2.3 leave just last week and quit. I worked shifts after and I'm cutting a lot of stuff out, Bob, because I don't want people to know who this is. We're briefing. We're thrown into units with 240 inmates. So right there, we got a person working, claiming that it's not 1 to 60, it's not 1 to 170. He's saying 1 to 240.
And we've heard that all along.
They even come around to sign books or check on us when we're isolated. Nobody checking on them. New officers haven't been with DLC for 6 months or looking for another job. So again, we're getting these officers, but as soon as they get in there, they're saying, hey, I got to get out of here. It's what we're being told. A lot of us are wanting to put in for vacation, been denied, so they can't get time off. Some weeks they're not even getting, I don't know what that means, regular. Today I feel as I need to share this with you. Not sure if you have answers, but a lot of us are just tired, depressed, have no social life because the hours we have to have. Night shift is worse. You sleep, and the first day you're off, you have to sleep to catch up. Says, have a good day. So, Bob, again, that's what, Bob, I was looking at that, and we got a letter kind of right in behind that saying, I agree with Mr. Sad. And, I talk to officers all around the state, Bob. That's where we're at. And so, again, we get a lot of people on us, me and you, talking about we're negative, talking about we're rude, talking about we're unprofessional. Mainly, I think they're mentioning that about you, Bob. I don't think they're really talking about me when they say stuff like that. But, Bob, here's the deal. Isn't it unprofessional to read a letter and try to cover it up? You know why we try to cover it up? Because they'll go after. That's the mentality of this group, is not to hear that and go, dang, we need to fix some problems. No, their mentality, we'll find out who that is and we'll give them hell, We'll make their life even more miserable. We'll run them off so we can be even more shorthanded. You know what I'm saying? That's their mentality. They're narcissists. I mean, they go after people. They do not care about anybody but themselves. That's what this looks like. And again, Bob, it may be rude, but you know what? I like to have a little fun in telling the truth. And when we're saying, hey, we're number one in ODs, we're number one in drugs, and how they can write a letter talking about what a great job they're doing when they have those kind of numbers, when they have these federal numbers that are a total lie, and yet we're still the worst. We're still the worst in the nation with the total lie. I mean, we're telling such a big, big lie, and we're still the worst in the nation What other first do you think we got?
Well,
Bob,
it's
I'll tell you one. He's the first director to ever shoot his own floor. That's a first. How about that? That's a first.
well, he didn't answer to anybody.
No, I mean there's no accountability. What happened on that deal, Bob? I mean, listen. I asked. Now, is this a reasonable request? I asked to see his training papers. Bob, I went and looked up the ops. He's supposed to take a drug test. I asked him when you got done with that, when he shot that floor, did you take a drug test? We want a copy of that. No drug test. I can't get a copy. 2, and I'll guarantee he didn't do it. And if he did, he lied, because guess what? They were going to cover it up. The reason they come out with that is because on Monday I called them and said, what do you want me to tell these reporters who's calling me? What's your statement? What do you want? Shortly later, the governor makes a statement. Now, the incident happened on Friday, so you know they were going to try to cover it up. So here's the deal. He didn't go take no drug test. I can almost guarantee it. If he did, I've requested it, and he's not giving it to me. 2, I requested his training documents. Guess what, Bob? And somebody could request my training documents. I'll go get them. Every year I've taken qualifications with Ada Bunch, but it's in Cleat. If you want them, and Cleat will give them to you. I'll sign a release. Anybody wants to see what I scored and who I scored with and who was the range master and when we shot, what time, what range, I could care less. If you want to go with me today, we'll go out and shoot. You know what I'm saying? You can see whether I can shoot. You can go get 35 years. I've qualified for 35 years. I've had all the training. No problem. I'll send you all the records. Guess what? I asked. So here's a non-elected bureaucrat. You've got somebody elected, chairman of corrections, asking the correctional director, please send me your records showing you were qualified to have that gun. Have not received them yet. I requested a subpoena, reasonable subpoena. Guess what? Have not received it yet. Now, who's he accountable to? Nobody. $90,000 raise. Let me see where, because there's only 3 ways you can get that authorized. I know one of them is it didn't happen. I'm pretty certain the second one didn't happen. How about the paperwork to show you were authorized to give yourself a $90,000 raise? Reasonable, I would say. Request a subpoena, reasonable, absolutely. Guess what? You talk about covering your butt and not answering nobody and having people cover your ass. He's got it. I mean, he is.
Well, the public has a right to know. It's our money. We have a right to know how it's being wasted and what they've done and put a guy in there that had 0 experience, 0,
none
zilch experience in working in a prison.
Yep.
He brings in people who don't have any experience working in a prison. He'd make it worse.
Well, Bob, I'll tell you another first. First one to ever have a general's outfit, general's costume.
Millions of dollars spent on uniform that they want to talk about when we bring things up that's going on. Oh, well, he's done a great job. We've got uniforms now, and we're really doing good. And that's just not true what you're saying. They can't face the facts, and they always make the excuses up. And then they mention some new things that they have going that hasn't made a difference at all in the correctional officers per inmate. That's where we need to know that. Where's the difference at? There's nothing. They have nothing to prove that they've done anything to try to change that ratio down and try to help with the morale to get it up, not down.
Bob, first one to get a big, nice office downtown without any legislative approval. How about that? You know what? Again, we're talking about accountability, money. We're talking about a lot of money, Bob. We ain't talking about just like in uniforms. We think, oh, no big deal. He got a general. No, he got that for all his people. And again, it was a lot of money for what? For the biggest joke in the history of the state. I mean, you talk about even people not in the Department of Corrections. Everywhere I go, Bob, when I get with other law enforcement groups, hey, I got to ask you, are they really doing that? Hey, what's the deal with the uniform? You know, and they're just all going, you got to be joking, you know. And again, it's just unreal. But the bottom line is, how much money did you spend on that? And I have no problem wanting to change the look I get what he's wanting to do, and I'm with him on that. But the way he goes about it, because he does not have the experience and he does not realize that's offensive for him to put that uniform on to people who've actually earned a uniform. And he hadn't been there, and he don't get that. And that's what he don't see, that's really something that's caused more problems. And again, we keep bringing it up. But again, what's the cost? What's the cost on this new building? And how do you get that without any approval, any authorization?
Wait a second. I'm hearing now they're taking more pins away. They're starting taking more pins away, which means they're giving up. They don't have enough people, so they'll take the pins away. It's another way how they switch around. Explain to that how that works, JJ.
Bob, it's the same as what we talked about: the walk away, the group disruption. So here's the deal: when you don't have enough officers, they play this game. Well, let's say you started off in prison, you had 100 officers, and tomorrow you only have, like, say 85. Okay, and for 6 months you don't have but 85. They're going to come in and say, well, you know what? You don't need those other 15 officers, because obviously you can run a prison without those 15. So we're going to drop you down to 85. So now when somebody like me or you looks in and says, well, how many officers you got? We're 100% because we got 85. That's how many we're supposed to have. Oh, really? But last year you had 100. And so you're saying you can do just as good a job with 85 as 100. Well, that'd be fine, but next week they ain't got but 75. So we take 10 more pins. And the next week we take another 10, and now we're down to 65. And now we're sitting here with almost, 40-something% gone. And yet, nope, we're full. We're 100% full. And again, they get down to 50%. Bob, I would say if we are 50% at any location, I'm going to feel like we're doing. And this is honest. So if you looked at Howard McLeod, if you looked at Mac Alford, which I think are doing okay jobs, but if they're 50% staffing level, I'm going to be shocked. And you may have some that's a little bit more, but I will be shocked if any prison meets 50%, and if they're up 75, I'll plumb fall out of this chair, So that's the deal. And then we have other places that, Bob, I'm working on an interim study. I hope our people approve, but we're going to do the conditions of prisons. Now, Director, I know you'll go try to kill that because you don't want actual truth coming out on what really is going on in your prison, and we're going to try to bring out. But I went and found a guy who did and here's what's funny, what's the best part of this, Bob? They actually asked him to do it. So this guy's retired, so he doesn't care if they get mad or not. And they asked this guy, while he was a top level person in security, they asked him to do an assessment of a prison. And he went in and did the assessment, and were able to show where, hey, this one unit requires, and he showed it's got so many inmates, and here's the requirements, and this is what these requirements take. And in order to get that done, you would have to have 10 people on that unit to get that done. And guess what? They got 2. Yeah. And he goes down through every unit, showing that even if you had, like some of them, even if you had 10, you're still going to have 4 or 5 inmates that ain't going to get done. You don't have enough time, but we can make it with this. But, and he goes back and shows that's what they used to have. That's what they were doing it with before. And now what you're doing, and here's what's funny, Bob, and our little director, he don't understand this. He don't get this. It don't calculate with him. But sooner or later, the old trap's going to shut, because here's what's up. When you got so many people that are supposed to have a shower, and by law, they're supposed to have these showers every so often, and you got 2 people on that unit, and you just go in and do the math, it can't be done. If you had 2 people on that unit for a year, then guess what? Them people ain't getting showers. There's no way they're getting, and again, you have massive human rights violations being
Well,
done. And
also they got lockdowns, so they're locked down not because there were problems within the inmates, because they didn't have enough officers. They go to lockdown. That's happening more and more and more.
well, Bob, and again, otherwise you would be having more problems than what you've got. I hate that, but I do believe that under the current conditions, there are times that may be the answer. I don't like it.
Well, you have to do it.
But again, Bob, here's the question. If somebody just gets the old calculator and just uses just common sense, and that's what this guy's assessment. It's easy to read. It's common sense. Here's this unit. Here's how many inmates in, and here's what you're required to do. You got to get them out. You got to get so many yards. You got to get so many showers. You got to get this done. There's 24 hours. That means 24 hours divided into this number of inmates means you got to do so many per hour to get this done. And again, are you going to be out there at midnight doing these? Are you going to, again, you got to be reasonable. And so there's so many hours in a day. And how many officers does it take? How many can shower, move? And how many can you do? And so again, pretty easy math, pretty easy to understand, and pretty easy to see. There ain't no way in Hades that 2 people can do what 10 people could do. And here's what's funny, Bob. When those 2 people don't do what 10 people did, something happens. They're blaming those 2 people, and they're ready to fire them. Just like, Bob, the incident down there at McAllister, where the warden shows up and says, hey, you go get your vest, or you wait till we get there. You hold on till I get there. Well, guess what? This guy dies. Whose fault is that? You got the top officer supervising, the top official, the top employee, which would be that warden. Yet they fire the person that's answering to that one. That one's calling the shots, but they fire the person who's not calling the shots. It's insane. And then lose in court, and then they're going to turn around and appeal. Hey, there's another number 1, Bob. Number 1 losses in court. I don't know that I've ever seen anybody lose so much in court.
100%.
Hey, losers. Okay, number 1 loss, but guess what? They rebound. They rebound, Bob, and they're the number 1 to appeal to district court. So number 1, they won't hire anybody even when they lose and multiple lose, appeal and lose. They're going to appeal it to the district court, cost the state of Oklahoma number 1 and costing the state of Oklahoma a bunch of money in lawsuits. How about that, Bob?
Yep.
Hey, number one to fire a bunch of executives and get sued. How about that? I ain't never heard of that. You ever heard of that, Bob?
Never heard of it.
A group executive firing. Number 1. Tell your girlfriend to wait for just a little bit, Bob. But number 1, what else is he number 1? He got a lot of number 1. Number 1, shooting the floor. Number 1 in not providing information. Number 1 in getting officers without authority. Number 1 on getting them uniforms. Number 1 in stabbings. Number 1 in drugs. Number 1 in ODs. What else, Bob?
I don't know, but the real sad part of it is, guess who has to pay for all this?
Yeah,
the officers.
Well, the
officers are having to do this.
But taxpayers, this is on taxpayers. And here's the deal, Bob. We hadn't even, he's wanting to talk about the county sheriff. That's what he's wanting to talk. But Bob, we hadn't even started talking about shower incidents and all those kind of deals. I've never heard of such. I've been around for a long time, never heard. But here's what's going to happen. When we're making fun of number 1 in lawsuits, hey, Bob, you can turn that.
I don't know.
Turn that ringer down, Bob. It's all good, But here's the deal, Bob. People need to understand this. Lawsuits get filed, and it takes a long time. Like this group of guys that filed, these executives that filed, Luke Pettigrew and that group, they go, I don't know, about 6 months. They have to file an intent, and then they have to come back and actually file the lawsuit, which they've now done, is my understanding. So guess what? It's going to take another year or two to settle that lawsuit. These shower incidents, they just got moved over to the federal court. And guess what? We've got rape incidents. We've got all kinds of incidents that are going on. So again, when people are not seeing immediate money out, this is going to cost the state millions and millions of dollars. It's going to cost the taxpayer millions of dollars. Just like when they keep appealing because they lose, because they have no case, they just appeal it. Guess what? Costs the state a lot of money. So again, we're going to be out a lot of money, and he'll probably be gone by that time when we start seeing all of these costs come in on the Department of Corrections. It's unreal.
Yeah, but these people that have to work all those hours and trying to get with their family and try to meet, they don't seem to be, they don't really care.
Well, Bob, they don't care about that. And let me tell you something else they don't care about. You know how many calls I receive a day for people, and I never would have dreamed that I would have ever been fielding these kind of calls, Bob. I got family member after family member after family member that are calling me and saying, we just want to know our kid is alive. We just want to know our kid's not being raped. We just want safety. Can you get them out of this place? Would you get them out? I've got multiple calls. Could you get them out of this place? I wished that director could actually, you know what I'm saying? I'll bet you $100 he wouldn't even sit down with somebody and listen to them cry over their kid being raped, over their jaw getting broken, no medical. Now, I will say that medical person is stepping up and helping us. I will. Well,
he would just say that prison is a tough place.
Yeah,
that's what they say.
Tough place. Yeah, he needs it. You know what I'm saying? He needs to get him some. It don't have to be. Prison's a tough place. I don't care what we do, Bob. And again, prison doesn't need to be a pretty place. I don't want to make it a pretty place. I want you to never want to come back. But at the end of the deal is you shouldn't have to get raped because you had possession of some methamphetamine. You shouldn't have to get it. Your family shouldn't be extorted $30,000 for you to come to prison. You shouldn't have your jaw broke. You shouldn't have your eye socket broke. You shouldn't get void wrote on your head. And I'll tell you another first I've heard, Bob. First one I've ever heard. I got a call from a person on visitation the other day, and they were like, what in the world is going on with the Department of Corrections? I was like, what are you talking about? And he said, I'm on visitation, and these inmates are walking in with $300 to $500 shoes. So I called and checked. Sure enough, it sounds like that's legit, and it ain't just at one prison. And $300 to $500 shoes. When I thought we used to have a rule, hey, they could, and there's reasons we do that. Okay, that you don't want all of that stuff. They're bringing in gold chains. Bob, they look like they're gangbangers right out there in the prison. And again, first to sit down and meet with the gang leaders to run the prison. Now, that's what I'm being told. They're going down there and meeting with the gang leaders to run the prison. Lots of firsts, Bob. First to have $300, $500 shoes. First to wear gold chains. First to, meet with the gangs and set up.
Go into a prison and have a meeting with the gangs and don't even go around and shake hands with anybody else.
Well, they ain't running the show, Bob. You got to go meet the people who's running the show. Bob, that's the deal, is that we can, and we're shooting all these first, and we're having a good time with it. We're laughing about it. But Bob, the problem is the sad reality is we're joking, but we're not joking. The sad reality is, Bob, they had 4 more stabbings at Lawton this week. 4 stabbings.
How long are we going to do this till they all kill each other off?
Here's the sad part, Bob. You want me to tell you what's really sad?
Yeah.
Contact the media and say they had 4 stabbings down there. You know who covered that story?
Nobody.
Local media. Local media covered that story. You know why?
Why?
Because, Bob, stabbing in prison have become so common, it's no longer news. I went to a training on the cartel, and they were showing that used to back, the mobs would line you up and shoot you with machine guns to send a message to the other mobster, you better not mess with us. Well, after a while, that got old hat. Nobody cared. Nobody reported it. No big deal. So down in Mexico, the cartel started cutting people's heads off, put them in a sack, run them in there and throw them to the other gang members. And boy, that got everybody's attention for a minute. But guess what? After a while, cutting heads off. So then they started mutilating them, putting them out there. And that got a lot of shock value. But after it becomes so common, guess what? No big deal anymore. And then they started, skinning their faces, doing all kinds of stuff, Bob. I mean, they showed us on video, you could not believe the carnage, but nobody reports it because no big deal. And that's what's happening in your prisons, is the fact that you have all of these ODs. Yeah, that's a big deal. The fact that you have all these deaths, that's a big deal. But when you report them and you report them and you report them, and DOC director doesn't go, nothing happens. The governor says nothing. Our state leaders go, oh no, it's all good. And JJ's lost his mind, and Bob's lost his mind too. But here's the deal. Guess what? Now we're the bad guys. We're the bad guys because we're telling the truth. We're the idiots that have the audacity to stand up and go, hey, don't take our word for it. Go down there. It was on the news. 4 people stabbed. One meta-flighted, three taken out in ambulance. Go look at the news. It's there. It's verified. Oh, by the way, the week before, 30 injured, 2 stabbed 100-something times, 2 others stabbed pretty bad. Guess what? Go look at it. Go look at the lawsuits on wrongful death. Go look where people been starved to death. Go look at some of the food stuff that we verified. Go look at all of it. It ain't us making it up. We bring it. Just like
what happened to that food that was coming in that was old that we were buying?
Hey, we sent that, Bob. And here's the deal. I got the inventory from them that shows it was 10 months or a year out of date. Guess what? Because guess what, Bob? When you compare that to 100 people dying, when you compare that to people getting stabbed every day, when you compare it to people being raped, when you compare it to a video of rape, when you compare it to locking people in 2x2 showers and lying about that and then get caught square in your ass lie. And again, you know what I'm saying? After a while, hey, if they ain't going to do nothing to them, it ain't newsworthy. It's not newsworthy. It's just, oh, well, people get raped when you go to prison. Oh, well, you get killed if you go to prison. Oh, well, just don't go to prison. That's how you solve that. Don't go to prison. You won't get raped, killed, stabbed, hooked on fentanyl. They won't crush that up and put in your food. Then you won't get hooked on it and you won't OD. That's their answer to everything.
Well, it's certainly is not improving. It's not getting better. We're getting to be number one in all the places we shouldn't be number one at. And the sad part is nobody cares. He answers to nobody. He's got this $90,000 raise, but it's overpaid. It's ridiculously that what's happening there. He just wastes money on uniforms so they can look cute, and that really helps the morale when they give all these new jackets, new uniforms to the wardens.
Yeah, to the top management. Top management looks like generals. And, by the way, order a little bit bigger size, Director.
Well, they don't know how come they always look so tight. But hey, enjoyed having you today. It's again a good discussion, and we're always open for anything that we say that's not true. We'd like to know about it.
Absolutely. If I'm telling a lie, I'll come on and admit it. But again, you're not going to get me on lies because everything I'm saying right here is 100% gospel truth.
Well, this report has really brought it out to the facts when they have down there that we had 3,000.
Bob, we didn't even talk about that. 3,910 correctional officers, not employees, correctional officers. 3,910. Bob, we ain't never seen 3,910. at the top, we might have had 4,600 employees. I think now we'd have between 43 and maybe 4,000 employees total. We've never seen highest correctional numbers would probably be. I remember they reported 2,000 under that Senate hearing, and they come back and said, "Oh, he didn't know what he's talking about because when we called him on it, well, he was just mistaken." Well, he swore to it right there. How you the director's telling you, no, we've never had 2,000. We've never had 2,000. Now they're claiming 3,910, 90 away from 4,000 correctional officers. Bob, and that's the numbers they're using to get to the 5. That's what it would take to be 5.87. So, almost to 1 to 6. So to get to 1 to 6, we're going to need 3,910 officers. Now that's the way I read that. I'd have to put that, calculate it out. Bob, I could go on all day, but I know we got to go.
Well, I'll see you. I got to talk to you about something else, but I'll see you next week.
Okay.